Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Banditland Boulevard. I'm Trevor Howard. That's Tony LaMonica. We got a special guest today. We're just talking some Bandits lacrosse tonight. Already did the post game, already did the preview for this week. We got the radio voice of the Buffalo Bandits. John Gurtler is here with us tonight. John, how you doing, man?
Trevor, great. Tony, good to see you guys.
Great season for the Bandits so far, and I know I was in the booth for WGR doing the last game. That was a very entertaining one against the Toronto Rock. So far this year, John, what do you think has been the best game the Bandits have played? They've only played 4, but can you tally one and think of maybe the best game that they've played this year?
Gosh, I would have to say last Friday night against Toronto. I mean, the Rock really threw everything they had at the Bandits, no pun intended. I thought they played an excellent game, and I thought the second half for the Bandits, they came around like they generally do against the Rock and put together a combination of great playmaking and some excellent goal scoring. And, the talent that the team has right at the moment is so diversified, from Dehoka Nanakok to Chase Fraser to Josh Byrne to Dane Smith. And then, of course, what can we say about Ian McKay? I mean, good Lord, man. He just unleashed some shots on Friday night that were amazing.
And what makes the Bandits so dominant, do you think, against the Toronto Rock? I mean, we've all seen it. I mean, I was there in Section 106 watching the playoffs. I went to Hamilton last year during the regular season. Every single time they play, I mean, the Bandits, this was a team they used to struggle against from maybe 2008 to, what do you say, Tony? Maybe 2014, 15.
Yeah,
they would win against them once in a blue moon. Then Johnny T gets hired as the head coach, and I think they've lost to them. I can count on one hand the amount of times they lost to the Toronto Rock. Yeah. They play them twice a season. What do you think makes them so dominant against a team like Toronto?
I believe, Trevor, it begins with coaching. One with John Tavares, and the second one with Steve Dietrich, understanding the defensive schematic of this team and the talent that they have. Kudos to Dietrich for bringing Paul Dawson in mid-season, kind of lift up a little bit of the defense and add a little bit more of stay-at-home attitude and just his veteran experience to settle some of the forces down, and combining with Steve Prioldo. The two of them just work so well off each other, not only on the bench, but, at times out on the field, even though they're not paired together on a regular basis. But then I thought that, for Dietrich to bring Thomas Whitty in this year, I think it adds an element, knowing that Bryce Sweeting wasn't going to be available. And then just a combination of this work together. And you see the variation of the defense of Buffalo, where you've got the real tough players. Cam Wires is coming into his own, real tough player. And then Nick Weiss. And then, break it down to a player like Justin Martin, who's the little B that comes off the bench and just does an exceptional job. Nobody knows that he's out there. We rarely call his name, but he's so smart in the defensive game for the Bandits, and he adds such a key element to the success. And then, leave it to the transition guys once they're able to get the ball out of their own zone. And, Matt Vince just being Matt Vince on a regular basis. And, I mean, everybody was pointing the fingers. Vince didn't have a very good game Friday night. But regardless, Toronto, even with the deficit of their power that they didn't have, and Mark Matthews being a surprise scratch and out for the season, but they've got some firepower that's just pretty strong. And Toronto's always going to come on, but like Tavares said at the end of the game at the post-game press conference, Matt makes the right save at the right time when he needs it. When the team needs him, he's there, and he certainly showed that at the end of Friday night's game.
Yeah.
Now, in your perspective, John, do you think this is just a small little fluke or flaw that maybe they exploited our defense going into the next game against Philadelphia?
No, if anything, it was a wake-up call for these guys. And there again, I'm just going through the basis of how the team develops itself, especially early part of the season. To start the year, they were off for 12 days. They were off for 14 days after the first game. And then when they had the second game back-to-back, but that's fine. And then off another 14 days. The on-again, off-again piece with this team yet. Thankfully, the team is going to be playing tomorrow night. So that's the first set of 2 since the beginning of the season. And, I think it's difficult on these guys with the layoff, and then we got Christmas and New Year's. then to get back into the swing of things. I think it was difficult for them to really face a team like Toronto was extremely desperate Friday night. And I think that they were prepared, but, there again, they had some shooters that maybe they didn't key on as much as they should have because they didn't know. I mean, Matthews being out and then Challen Rogers coming back. Corey Small can flare at any time, and then Bushi is with them as well. And, guys are stepping up to the plate and scoring. And then you always get that odd transition goal scored by Mitch DeSnew.
Yeah.
He's always got this lane against Buffalo that he can score. So, credit to Toronto. I mean, they gave Buffalo a hell of a game Friday night.
They definitely did.
They're going to be stacked tomorrow night when Philadelphia comes into the building. Great retooled defense, really spurred in an offense, and Nick Demude, guys shut him down when the Bandits played in Fort Worth last year. So
also
it's going to be a big challenge.
He also scored a goal. A goal. Who can forget about that? And the Philadelphia Wings, I mean, Tony and I joke about it all the time. We call them the Philadelphia former Bandits. That's where a lot of the former Bandits like to go. But, yeah, I was telling Tony before, too, Toronto being 0-4 going into that one, sometimes it's more of an NFL term, but a team that has virtually nothing to play for can be the most dangerous, especially against a team that's in the top of the league. And that's, I mean, kind of going into it, I predicted the Bandits by 6, but I went in with the mindset of don't be surprised if maybe Toronto makes this a 1 or 2 goal game, and that's exactly what it was. But
they did.
Yeah, that was a great game, very physical game. They put on a show for the close to 18,000 strong in Banditland there that
17,240.
night. Absolutely nuts, and they averaged that for the last 3 years. I think it's been like 17,000 plus, and since after the COVID break, but. John, you've been around with the Bandits since 2004, right? With 2004 was your first year. Yes. So you went through a couple heartbreaks before getting that first title. I know 2006, that was a stinger. 2007 had to have been a stinger too, losing in the semis to, it seemed like a team that they couldn't beat at the time in the Rochester Nighthawks. And to finally get that first one under you calling the team in 2008. How did that feel after, I don't know, maybe 2004, you run into Tracy Kelusky, who's red hot. Okay, fine. We'll give him that. That was a great win by the Calgary Roughnecks. 2006, I felt like that was one the Bandits really should have won, and it really slipped out of their hands.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a hot Colorado team that came in and just really took it to the Bandits right off the bat. I think a little bit of the team lost its composure. And we just, we lost a lot of the gear in that game in 2006. And it was again, another wake-up call to the Bandits to say, hey, they made it that far. Granted, in 2004, the team finished 8-8. It was kind of surprised they made the finals anyway. So that's a given. But then 2006, playing extremely well and losing to Colorado. And then, finally making it to 2008. A tight game against Portland all the way down to the end. That was just the way the team played itself out at that time. Again, chemistry means so much. It was a great chemistry team in 2008. I mean, you might remember all the guys shaved their heads into mohawks for that game, and John Tavares included.
I'll say, except for the dude with the afro, he didn't shave his head. He didn't shave his head.
Stater won't do that, I don't think.
Stater wouldn't do that at all. But there again, you got a guy like Mark Stainhouse who literally carried the Bandits from when the start of my tenure. I think he was 1 year in from me after he came from Columbus, the Land Sharks. And anyway, long story short, that Stainhouse carried this team all the way up until, unfortunately, he had to retire. But so great win for the Bandits in 2008, and then picking up the pieces throughout.
Speaking of which, I have a question about Portland, why they gave up so quickly after one season. Like, do you know any insight about that, or is it just coincidence?
Bandits sent him home, Tony. That's what it was.
I mean, not just that, because they made him lose, but I mean, for a team to come in for their first year and then all of a sudden say, that's it. I mean, what happened? Was it fan base? They weren't making enough money? I don't know. What was it?
Mysterious. It's continue mystery in the NLL, why teams drop off the way they do. It's just one of those things. I don't know. It didn't have the backstory on it. We never played. I don't think we did in Portland. I can't remember. I remember playing in Vancouver back then, but I don't know if we played in Portland. Maybe we did. I can't remember. great uniforms.
Yeah, underrated uniforms. When they had the
first year, and then all of a sudden
plaid reds.
It was like,
the
what else
flannels.
can you say?
Yeah, that's what it was. The flannels with. I remember Dan Dawson wearing that jersey.
Pretty wild.
Brody Merrill used to wear that jersey.
Yeah.
Hey, if they want to come back and expand the league, hey, that's fine with me. But
same things. Mysterious exits like Portland and Arizona and Anaheim.
Minnesota moved down. Yep, to Georgia.
On.
Yep. Well, Minnesota was moving. I think the Stealth went from like San Jose to Vancouver.
As many cities as they could.
Yeah, that was they were the Washington Stealth, San Jose,
Everett.
Vancouver, and then they rebranded. I mean, yeah, it's an ever and then Chicago. Who can forget about the Shamrocks? That was a team.
Yeah.
I remember. I think the Bandits played them once at home, once on the road too.
Yeah, we did play in the Sears Center, which is outside of Chicago, quite a ways. I think it was a difficult building to get to. It was a venue that was kind of like at a business park and really never materialized. Although I thought it was a nice venue, but it was one of those things that it didn't happen. But I think all of the 14 teams now pretty solidified and wheels up on all of the teams. I mean, the parity this year is pretty amazing.
And John, who are some of your favorite? I mean, I know you've been doing this since 2004, but I can already predict who your favorite player that you were covering was. I would say he probably wears number 11. Would I be wrong with predicting that?
No, it was good. I told the story once before on the first time I was with the team, and we had a road game in Vancouver right off the bat. And we rode on the bus, and I usually sit up in the front anyway on the bus. And then guys were getting off. I didn't know anybody really. I knew certainly Rich and Darius Kilgore quite well from the Sabre days that I was with the Sabres, and they were always good fans with the Sabres. So I knew them, and I knew a little bit of Steve Dietrich at the time. And then up walks John Tavares, very quiet player, might I add, during his playing days. Very, this guy was just focused in on his teammates primarily. And then he stopped at my seat. He said, "Come with me if you want to win." It was kind of like being Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's my first
great
discussion that I had with John Tavares. And since then, we've been pretty good friends all along. Very close to the vest type of guy, and a genius in the game.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time we were playing Boston, and we were in the TD Gardens, and I think we were going to overtime or was trying to head to overtime or something like that. And he called the timeout. Darius Kilgore was the coach. And Tavares pulled everybody over at the center of the field and said, "This is what we're going to do." He designed a play right there.
Wow.
Which sounds about right.
Just kind of we had certainly for the goaltenders, there were 6 players, and we just stormed. They just stormed the net, went right to the net with the ball behind. And it was pretty cool. And they scored the goal. But that was just a design by Tavares. So that's how quick this man thinks. The talent that Steve Dietrich has put together and combined it with John Tavares' thoughts. I mean, it's pretty amazing of the group that the Bandits have for 24-25 season. I mean, everybody is picked on this team to perform to their utmost and abilities. And that's why I think you're watching a Bandits team, for those that are going tomorrow night. I mean, it's just an incredibly talented team.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's just how well that he just knows the game so good, and everybody listens to him on that squad, and it's just so picture perfect watching a team gel into one instead of playing as individuals, and that's huge for Johnny T to say, "Look, we got a game plan, we're going to set to it, and then just go with it." And the team follows him, and that's an unbelievable sight to see a leader in itself going from player to head coach, and now look at him. He's still one of the best in the game, and he's still the very best in scoring as far as I can see. But for your perspective, John, watching him play, as you said, but now as a head coach, has anything really changed of his attitude, like towards being a player to being a head coach?
He yells more at the referees now, Tony. That's
true.
one thing.
But in your perspective, John,
he went to the school of Darius Kilgore and Troy Cordingley, talking to the referees. Not as fierce as those two guys did, but he's certainly so.
Troy
into
the Hammer would take someone's stick and whack it against the bench. I mean, that dude was crazy.
Yeah. So John is a player's player. I mean, he designs the plays. They go through very critical stages of their practices in the various design plays. Players chip in on how they feel that it's going to go. If it's not going to go their way, there's somebody to back them up. And Tavares said this a couple of weeks ago about Dehoka Nanakok. I mean, he adds so much of an element in the entire scope of the game when he's out on the turf. And if he feels, even though they might have a play designed specifically for him, it's certain instances, whether it's called on the bench or they're going to do this in the changeover of the fast shifts that they go through. If he feels it's not going to work, he'll be the first one to tell the coaches or Tavares or the rest of the players, hey, this would work better with you guys.
Right.
My point is, it's not a me game anymore. You might remember back in the earlier parts, and I would say this in the early 2000s, it used to be a me game. How many times the ball could be in one person's stick. It's not the element anymore because there's so many systems in this game today that the ball needs to be hot for the 30-second shot clock. You need to pass the ball as much as you can. And if there's a guy that has a quality shot, you take it. But, don't exercise. I think this is one of the, again, a constructive criticism by the coaching staff is saying that sometimes the guys shoot too early or shoot on desperation. Granted, if the clock's going down to 5, you want to make sure everybody's in position. The shot goes off. But, the Bandits will manipulate that ball as best they can. And if there's an area where the attack is going, they're going to take the shot. But there again, you've got a guy like Kyle Buchanan who's going to make himself open. And then you've got Dane Smith and Josh Byrne working on both sides. And you've got Buchanan there and it's twirling around, and Ian McKay and, Dehoka Nanakok, take your pick. And, it's a guy like Buchanan who never ceases to amaze me. Again, it's the energizer, Buzzy, that even with the number of years that he's been involved in the league, and he still just has that sense of the game. The game moves at a pace for him that he can, still stay up with the fast guys, but still he's just got the ingenuity.
He just takes a beating every night too.
Yeah. Oh, what was it last week when he did the over? Was that last week or back on the 28th when he did the behind the back or over the shoulder?
Yeah.
Shot?
Yep.
Yes, he did.
In front.
The home opener.
Rochester.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you got a guy like Nanakok. Just the way he scores goals is pretty amazing. But the guy's a number 1 bull rusher.
Yeah.
In the NLL. This guy just has such a strong physique that he's able to power that ball in front and score the goals the way he does. I mean, an amazing goal that he scored last Friday night against Toronto. But that goal that he scored in front of Rochester with 3 defenders just standing there.
Yeah. Kyle Buchanan should be an inspiration to Bandit fans out there. He's not the tallest guy. He's not the strongest guy out there. But does he score a lot of goals. And is he an inspiration to that team? He's a 2-time champion. He's been around the league a couple different teams, but I think he really found himself a home permanently in Banditland. This is where he's had his most success. And you mentioned it's not a me thing. I don't think, when Steve Dietrich was building this team, and even when Darius Kilgore was building this team, there was so much firepower. Outside of a couple of years where they had to retool. Yeah. I mean, you go back to the championship earlier. I mean, you had Stainhouse, Tavares, Dosty, Weiss, Paulus, anyone who was open. That power play was always deadly when the Bandits were on it because it just looked like they were having fun out there.
Right.
Just fast-paced passing, pass to the open guy, have fun out there. I mean, and then later on, some of those other years, they brought in Tracy Kelusky, Luke Wiles, some of those other players.
Yeah.
They had some pretty solid goaltending throughout most of their history.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, you mentioned all the players, John. I can name every single player on this roster. They can contribute in some sort of fashion. Josh Byrne, Dane Smith, Chase Fraser, Ian McKay. The way that this roster has been built since 1992, for the most part, has just been it's been mostly about the team, not about the star. And I think that's what some of those teams in this league. I mean, Georgia's really coming around, but for a long time, their star was Lyle Thompson. Get the ball to Lyle Thompson, whatever you can. They're starting to grow in that sense, but I think more teams should follow suit on what the Bandits are doing as far as constructing a roster.
Yeah, you'll see that tomorrow night with Philadelphia in the town, how well they move the ball, and Joey Resetarits and Mitch Jones. The guys are
Blaze
just
Reardon.
great goal scorers.
Blaze, yeah,
Blaze. He'll be on tomorrow night for sure, and then Brennan O'Neill. the American rookie leader. He's just another very talented player. So they're expanding their offense to a point where they're just like Buffalo. They'll be able to rotate the ball very quickly, try to confuse Buffalo's defense, and then I think you'll find there's a very close stick to the hands type of game tomorrow night for these guys because Jones is so smooth. I mean, I'm so happy that Joey Reseteras is scoring the amount of points that he's scoring. And the rest of the guys, you got Sam LeClaire. Who else do we have coming in?
Phil Caputo.
Yeah, Holden Catoni.
Catoni,
great season. So it's going to be a wild game tomorrow night. Really, I don't think it'll be. Here I am. I don't think it'll be a tough physical game like we saw last week.
Yep.
I think it'll be a free-flowing game, end-to-end action, which will be great, and fans will really enjoy it. I think I hope they already have about 17,000 sold for the game tomorrow night. So
I'm pretty sure it's going to be sold out again, especially with a game like this coming up. It's like the super. I don't want to predict it saying Super Bowl game, but it feels like it's going to be.
Hey, Buffalo Philadelphia Super Bowl is still alive and well as of right now, Tony. It's still a possibility.
God. If we're talking football, that is,
it's still a possibility.
And regardless of this being a new franchise, quote franchise for Philadelphia, this is the long-standing Buffalo Philadelphia Lacrosse that started way back in 1992, and still those flavors permeate through with the wing side, even though it's they're calling it a new franchise and the record's just like Rochester where it goes up to Halifax, but they're again great two rivalries teams meeting, and if you think about it, even though Philadelphia was out for a handful of years up in New England or wherever, that having Buffalo Philadelphia games back just tremendous.
Yeah, I mean for sure. I think it was the shot heard around the world with JT. The behind the back in '92. That was what really started that whole rivalry between those two teams.
Yeah.
'93, they had that perfect season. Once again, beat Philly. '96 had a great season, and that was one of those games where you actually felt comfortable. If you go back and watch that game in 1996, your heart wasn't in your throat in the fourth quarter. You were riding out with a comfortable lead in that game. Very similar to that of the 2023 finals where, hey, we got this thing in the bag. Let's celebrate with 2 minutes to go. All of those in the 90s, all three of those were against the Philadelphia Wings. And trust me, they could maybe go to a different city or something. That city does not forget that the Bandits did that to them in the 90s. I can tell you that. And
the other player that you certainly had mentioned and will probably have a strong game tomorrow night is Chase Frazier. He loves playing against Philadelphia. I mean, he loves playing in Philly to begin with, but on the other hand, I think he does quite well against Philadelphia. What did I look up with Graham Perros at NLL or NLLstats.com about Frazier? He's got 14 goals in his career against Philly, and
one was an OT,
here, one goal there. But I think Chase is the type of player that'll score 5, just like he did. Wouldn't
that be a sight?
I remember Chase. Chase
he
scored 1 in overtime at the Wells Fargo Center and told the fans to shush. You remember that?
Yeah, that was 19.
Yep, he had his hand behind his ear. He's like, I can't hear you.
Boy.
Yeah, that was great. Dane Smith obviously cashing in on overtime. I think that was the last time they came back to the KeyBank Center. He scored an OT. That was a back and forth game by a long shot. I didn't know who was going to win that game until the final, the ball went in the back of the net where we could just sit there and be like, wow, okay, this game's over. Right. Heart attack type of game. That was the epitome of the 2023 season. Injuries, Bandits somehow find their way back into every single game, absolutely throttle teams in the playoffs outside of maybe one game.
Yeah.
And they really haven't looked back since. And all those guys became healthy and they just kind of became a juggernaut. Despite the slow start to the 2024 season.
Yeah.
One of the questions I did have for you, John, do you still keep in touch with some of the older Bandits, some of the alumni from maybe 04 to 2014, outside of maybe John Tavares, of course?
No, I don't. Occasionally run into them, whether they have an alumni association that was started last year, and Scott Loeffler, who's the senior director of lacrosse operations, has set up an alumni group. And they do make tickets available for alumni that want to come to the game. If there's a good pack of them, sometimes they set up a suite for them. I know that they had a good group last week that was there for Native American Heritage Night. So then when I run into him, I did get a call over the summertime from Pat McCready. And of course, I see Pat sometimes, and that's why we brought him on the broadcast one time last year, thinking that, maybe he would like to get into broadcasting, depending, what he wanted to do. But he was fortunate enough to, well, maybe it's unfortunate enough because he's the defensive coordinator now with Philadelphia. So
Yep.
He joins Paul Day, Tracy Kowalski, and the other handful. I think there's about 10 former Bandits, including Paul Day and Kowalski and Pat McCready. So I see him, and sometimes, I'll run into Corey Bomberry.
Great dude.
Just a handful of guys that you like to see that would come down to a game, but rarely keep in touch with him. Sometimes I call Richie to say hello.
He's a good dude.
To have a conversation with him. Great proactive disciple of not only the game, and then, there again with Darius. I talked to him a couple of times since he left the team, and, there's another mastermind of the game of lacrosse, and Darius, and hopefully he's in a good position now at teaching some of the younger kids the little man of war, as he calls it.
He was the tough guy, tough
brother,
head coach. Man.
Did not
he brought it.
Get in the middle of that.
He brought the fire every single night on the bench. Well, him and obviously Cordingly too. I mean, he'd take someone's stick and throw it at the center field mark if he had to. And Johnny T's more calm, cool, and collected, unless the refs call something really, really sketchy, and it really pisses him off.
He really gets into the game, though. I mean, he's designing plays in his head. He's trying to shift the guys accordingly, who goes where and how they do it. But the guy is just a multitasker and a great numbers man himself. And then working with Steve Dietrich on the bench as well, and Eric Vince is there, with kind of in the middle of a mediator to go through this and that. And don't forget that Anthony Cosmo is on the coaching staff as well and working.
With
Matt Vince and our young goaltender Steve Orleman and Evan Konstopoulos. Guys are waiting in the wings. I think we got some good kids in the wings too. Really,
I think so too. I mean, our draft
class. You have to see Lucas Nielsen out there too.
Yeah.
Yep. He's.
I think there'll be a possibility down the road the kid will get in there. I mean, they kept him on the roster and.
He's got some good highlight reel footage. If you want to look some of that stuff up, he's got hands, that's for sure. I didn't have on my bingo card Clay Scanlon being as much of an impact to the team as he is now.
No, that's an unfortunate situation with. There again, another key player, key cog in the success of the Bandits is Chris Kluche.
Yep.
And he may or may not be back for tomorrow night. I would think it would be a game time decision, or maybe he'll have to sit another game, but. To throw Clay Scanlon in there like that. Another brilliant move by Dietrich. Saying,
it's great.
Listen, we're going to sign this as a free agent. The kid that, Halifax dropped him. So, he's come in and done a great job so far. Hopefully Chris is back tomorrow night. So, you never know.
We missed that lefty sidearm shot. We missed seeing that. And
I mean, just the names that we've talked about right now, incredible. I mean, Nanico, Kluche, you've got Byrne, you've got Smith,
Mickey,
Buchanan, Chase, Mickey. I mean, and they're all different type of goal scorers. That's why I think he adds the excitement of the element of this team.
And Tony and I talk about it all the time. We say when the Bandits win the championship, they don't say, "Oh, maybe we can get rid of this guy and we can bring in this guy. We might be even better." No, they don't F with winning. That is the number one thing. You don't. If it worked this time, it's probably going to work this time unless other teams make massive adjustments. Right. Johnny T, Steve Dietrich, they don't F with winning. The Bandits in 2023, 2024, 2025 should be a staple in all sports, a blueprint for other teams. Hey, maybe if we won the Super Bowl this year or the Stanley Cup this year, maybe we don't make drastic changes and have this unnecessary need to get even better. Keep the same guys around. Have other teams in the league find other ways to beat you. You already found the top of the mountain. You could find it again with the same core of guys. And that's what the Bandits do.
Yep. And that's what they put together for the 24-25 season, even though the competition is going to be intense.
Definitely.
And working the game December 28th with Brad Challoner, who's the guy from the West. He said the Bandits will have a target on their back the size of Niagara Falls.
Oh yeah.
It's always
even bigger
good to
than
get a
that.
perspective from a guy from way back in the West.
Yeah.
take a look at the talent that the Bandits have, and that's just the critical. And again, it's tomorrow night. It's coming up with these. Unfortunately, we got to go through another bye week after tomorrow night's game, and then they'll try to get back on a schedule where we'll. I think the Bandits are the only team in the league that have 2 back-to-back games where we play Toronto one night and come down and play San Diego the next night, and then I think we play Vegas one night at home, and then we have to take a bus to Albany to play the Firewolves.
Yep.
So, the challenges will be out here the second half of the season, and then we're traveling a lot again in the second half of the season to Colorado, San Diego,
Very similar to that of last year. Very
Calgary,
similar to that of last year.
To see how the guys put it together and how they rebound, because every team, I'm telling you, these guys like Philadelphia is a really good team, and unfortunately, Toronto being 0-5, every player on the Bandits roster will tell you they are not an 0-5 team.
I think Nick Weiss said it a lot in his press conference.
Yeah.
Like, this team should not be 0-5 because they bring it every single night.
Yeah, they do. That's going to be a great rematch on February 14th.
Oh, I can't wait. Mississauga.
Paramount Food Center. Hi again, everybody.
Yes, because they are the it seems like they pack up the semi and they go to the next building. That's what they've been doing. They went from Air Canada, or now it's Canadian Tire Center. They moved to Hamilton. I think that was first Ontario.
Scotiabank.
Scotiabank. Now they're playing in Mississauga. So
Paramount Food Center. Well, because let's see, Hamilton's going through a massive remodeling project for their stadium. It's supposed to be beautiful.
Oh, nice.
The Rock will
Very
be back.
nice.
The Rock will be back to the First Ontario Center. I don't know whether it's going to take a year or 2 years. I think it was just a year that they said they're all going to be gone. And as I understand, the Paramount Food Center is beautiful. Only seats 5,000, but it's a real comfortable arena, as I understand. I haven't been there yet, but it's great for the Rock to be there for the year, and then they'll be back. I can't speak for them. I don't know if it's a year or 2 years they'll be back to the First Ontario Center in Hamilton, and they're going through this massive remodeling project for the arena.
Tony, you know what that means. You know what that means.
Yeah, I've got to do another road trip.
I was thinking 4,500 Bandit fans when they come up on Valentine's Day.
Last time when we went, there was a lot.
Yeah, it's a possibility. But Tony, I'm going to ask John the question that everybody is bothering me with on Facebook. Not really bothering, because it is a good question. And I told my people that I work at Odyssey Buffalo with that I was going to have you on the show,
Sure.
and they had the same question: when is number 9 getting retired in Banditland?
So, to me, a very good question. Mark, I don't know something with his career. I don't know between the two sides. I do not have the story. I've tried to ask several times, and it's just to a point of saying we're working on it. I think it went to the depths a couple of 3 years ago about doing the number 9 retirement. They still haven't come to an agreeable date or whatever the situation might be. But let me reiterate, as I told the organization a couple of 3 years ago, Mark Stainhouse carried this franchise.
Yep.
With John Tavares, but Mark Stainhouse was the carrier of the franchise from the time I arrived to the time, unfortunately, he had to end his career. He carried the Bandits back into where they are today as a dominating team. He was responsible for generating the excitement of the fans. When I first started with the Bandits, the attendance was like 5,000-6,000 at a game. And then Mark coming in and joining the forces with Tavares and the rest of the great talent that they had slowly began to see the attendance levels rise. And by 2008 or 9, the Bandits were back to the level of where they are today, certainly growing. And, Stainhouse just brought such an exciting element to the game, to the Bandits, and to the fans, with his hair, his shoes.
Yep.
He was a great personality, and fans just loved that. And I think the game itself was going through a transformation at that time from the rough and tumble days at the Odd to coming here to the new arena, from 96 or not. Yeah, 96. When did the new arena open up? 96.
Yep.
But it was a slow progression of success. The previous ownership, as we all know, what happened there.
Yep.
And they just let the Bandits go down by the wayside. And then when Tom Golisano took the team over for the Bandits, it was John Livesey and Dan DePofi that came, that were the backbones of the operation with Golisano. And, they were the ones that wanted to get the Bandits back into the fold. And that's, John Livesey gave me a call for my days at the Sabres because we worked together. And he said, would you like to do lacrosse? I said, well, yeah, sure. He said, it's a lot like hockey. It's a little bit looser. We just want to have everybody have a great time. And, we want to build the fan base off. And I think Larry Quinn, who at the time was one of the head guys, and he kind of signed off on it with Dan DePofi and John Livesey. And they threw more marketing power to the Bandits at that time. And then right when I started, they were throwing more and more advertising and marketing to the Bandits and joining up together. And I think, it carried it through. And Mr. Pagula, when he purchased the Sabres and the Bandits at the same time, they've just thrown in their arms together. And the Pagula group, Mr. Pagula and the management group, they're totally behind the Bandits. They're there all the time to help and to co-market with the Sabres in the building together. So, it's a very strong franchise right now. But back to my point, Mark Stainhouse carried this club through the tough times. And he brought that club from literally, I thought, the ashes. And it was just the right timing for Stainhouse to join the club and what he not only did for the Bandits, but what he's done for the game. Will it be done?
A lot of great memories. A lot of great memories.
It would be great if that would be possible, that we contribute a good send out for them.
I know they're working on it. They're working on it.
Oh, that's good news to hear.
If I have to go to his landscaping company myself and ask him, can you please just sign off on this? Because we need to have a night where we're going to put your.
Him.
Nobody's worn the 9 since you left in 2018.
Yeah.
So
might as well just put it up in the rafters then.
And hopefully nobody wears it again. But there again, I hope that the organization and again, I have no idea what the story is. I've never been told. I know that they're working on it. And someday it's going to happen. That Mark will come back to the building and see that number 9 go to the rafters.
And you can totally
tell. What
a
night it's going to be. Wow.
Oh, I will be there front and center.
I don't think you'll see an empty seat in the house.
No. I'll be there front and center. But it sucks. Maybe like the young kids that have never gone to a Bandits game, they don't know the greatness of number 9. But
that's right.
maybe once they're going to throw his video package up there on the screen and be like, man, this dude was good.
Oh, yeah. They'll put it
the
together
first
for
was
sure.
wearing the orange
I was at the
shoes,
game
too.
against Boston. Tony, you were definitely there, being the season ticket holder. You were at the game against. Yeah. He wore like the old, like they almost look like clogs almost. I don't know how those.
They almost
he just wore the big sneakers. Man. But hey, you couldn't miss him if he was out on the floor, and I think Ian McKay's rocking the orange now too.
Orange shoes is always out there. There's Stainer. There he goes.
That's right.
There he is.
Number 9.
Oh, you can see the hair coming out too. But you're gonna see the video package up there, and the kids are gonna be like, "Wow!" This dude was generational and played for the team for such a long time. I might need to go look him up on YouTube or something. I was at the game.
Great.
I didn't know much about Rich Kilgore.
Video.
I went to my first game in 07. Or 06, one of those years.
Okay.
So I didn't really know much about the heyday of Rich Kilgore, but I went to the game against the Boston Blazers at the time where they retired his number. And I was like, damn, this dude was really freaking good. Tony, I know for a fact you were there. You could probably count on one hand the amount of games you missed since they opened the building or since they started the franchise in 92. But I remember watching that video package and listening to his speech, and I'm like, this dude, Chris Swenson called him the heart and soul of the Bandits. Yep. That's exactly what he was. And
look at Swenson, been there since day one too. So
day one. Swenny and JT are the only people that can say they had 6 rings with the Bandits in some capacity.
This is a very fun fact.
That's big. I thought, for the longest time they were going to retire number 3, Billy D. Smith, and then all of a sudden you see Thomas Whitty coming in here wearing the number 3. Hey, they can always change their mind on that.
He can give it up. He could give it up. There's another guy that deserves it.
But
Billy
Gurtler, you said it best. I think when you talked about the ownership of the team, you can totally tell when the attitude towards the Bandits and the focus was paid more attention to the Bandits.
Oh, yeah.
That was when the new third jersey came out. That was when they were selling the orange afros at the concession stand. That was when they were just, I mean, the Sabre store in general, it was half Bandits, half Sabres, when it was just, they used to just shove the Bandits little section in a corner.
Right.
And you could just pick and choose whatever you want. But, I mean, when that happened and Golisano was really focusing on the team, new third jersey, new deal with, I think it was Reebok was doing the jerseys at that time.
Yeah.
And more fans in the stands. We saw that more, we can watch a Sabres game, back in their heyday when they were actually, pretty decent to watch.
Right.
And you would, every other commercial, you would see Bandits. Oh, there's a lacrosse team that plays in the same building. Come check it out on Saturday nights. And then fans would be interested. And it went from basically when I look back at the tape, glorified beer league to a professional league that doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah.
This is true.
I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, Tony, you were kind of a standalone in the crowd back in the early 2000s, and look how many people wear Bandit sweaters now in the entire arena. It's just everybody's wearing a Bandits jersey.
Driving to the studio
you
today.
were there along with your box, and like people are looking at you like, does this guy work for the club or what?
I love it. Like I said before, when we had our previous interview, I was going to here and there kind of games back from 93 on, but then finally 2005, I got my seasons and I've never missed a game since. So it's been a rare sport like lacrosse to actually grow so much. And I didn't think I'd ever get to love a sport like this until I started watching Johnny Tavares and Mark Stainhouse and the guys that have been really putting them on the map. So you know what?
Yep.
How can you say no to go to this sport? It's so exciting to watch every time.
You got to get, once you get people there, they'll just and you've said it too, Tony, in the time that I interviewed you, that you take people to the game and they can't wait to come back to the next game. And I think
it only takes one game to find out.
The league itself is going through a little bit of the growth patterns and seeing what's going on. I know that they received a lot of news over the course of the week, and unfortunately, they had to, with the fight between Gash and Belter went viral, and
Barstool Sports picked it up.
Created a lot of interest.
Joe Rogan watched it.
Oh yeah, show. I did see the clip on Joe Rogan too. Good Lord.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess it's to the point of saying, do you sell tickets for the fights, or do you sell tickets to people that go to the games and watch this exciting part? I think those people that saw the viral and the video, the amount of hits that they got, that they'll find a way to watch a game and they say, hey, this is a pretty cool game, and
absolutely.
It just wasn't the fight, which was out of the ordinary, and it, and they don't fight as much as they used to. So it's back in the day.
Jesus, I feel bad for Belter. I hope he's doing all right. I mean, after that shot he took, and then another one while he was on the ground in percussion protocol.
Yeah.
So
he did take another shot there at the end.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I didn't have.
That kind of scared a lot of people too.
Yeah.
But my point is, do you sell tickets because of that? Or do you want to get to the people to the arena, or view it on television, or listen to it on radio because it's such an exciting game? Granted,
every around any kind of media that would definitely help them get involved and go
watch
see it
watch
for
the
themselves.
game. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, driving to the studio today, I saw a Bandits bumper sticker on someone's back windshield and a Bandits license plate cover on a separate car.
Cool.
And I'm like, man, if this was like 2004. What are the odds of you seeing, one of those on the back of somebody's car? I mean, the Bandit, they also do so much for the community too. They post a lot of videos on their YouTube channel. Like right before the championship finals happen in 2024, you have, I think it was it Fraser, McKay, and Byrne just going around local bars and signing autographs and taking pictures and talking to people talking to relatives on the phone and on FaceTime and stuff. Like they do a lot.
And the school program that they do, I mean, they have a school program that's just every day. A lot of the guys that are living in Buffalo that commit themselves to the school program, which is wonderful too. So heavily involved in the community, and they're again at the early part of the franchise. It started in '92 all the way up through the championship years. They had the fans were stacking the building then for sure.
Oh yeah,
to the old art to.
Absolutely. I missed
to the new building as well. It just went through a little bit of a dip, and now it's back to a point where this not only is it a great game, nothing. The game has changed in my mind. Some of the players might think, well, it's pretty much the same, sticking the ball up and down. But it's so systematic now. It's so athletic. The talent that it takes to maneuver the ball and shoot the ball the way these guys do today, I mean, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so exciting. And I'm hopeful that the fans that viewed the video this past week would say, okay, we understand what's going on. And, yeah, it's cool. But I hope that they tune in and watch just the excitement of the game itself.
Music blasting, goal horn pumping, music,
Right
even more music. Chris Swenson.
Swenson, right?
I mean, come on. You're there for the game. You're there for the entire experience. Fights just happen to occur sometimes, especially when the Bandits are playing the Toronto Rock. I mean, every time I go to a Bandit Rock game, I expect one or two at least.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got some bad blood.
And lots of hitting.
Lots of hitting.
It's an extreme rivalry right now.
Yeah, especially between Nick Weiss and Billy Hustrawser.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
It's a soap
Holy
opera.
Christ, those two hate each other.
That's a soap opera drama waiting to happen in the penalty box between those two.
Love
but
it. That's what entertains people.
No, hey, whatever puts people in seats. I feel like that works. You put money into the arena, they're going to send out a good product for you. That's what it is. It's part of it is entertainment too. I mean, sports are entertainment as well.
Yep.
But John, before we let you go here, do you think the Bandits have a good shot at going undefeated going into Sunday after tomorrow night against the Philadelphia Wings? Do you have any either score predictions or what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
I do.
Trevor, I was just about to ask him that too.
Oh, great minds think alike, Tony LaMonica.
Trevor and Tony, yeah, I think it'll be a style of a game that will be very fast. Don't know if it's going to be high scoring, but on the other hand, I kind of feel it could go one or two ways. One, it could be a real tight game. Two, it could be a track meet, back and forth, last goal wins. But I see Buffalo carrying a little bit more of the offense and the number of goals that they'll be able to score. Again, Demood is, it's a battle between the professor and the student in that Vince and to Nick Demood, who is, the next generation of goaltenders. He was fabulous in Fort Worth, and I paid him nothing but compliments in that game that they beat the Bandits with, just for the fact that he is a great goaltender. He's making Philadelphia stay in games. He's making great saves. I think that Paul Day, as a general manager, has now built a great defense for them. We're starting to build a good defense and opened up the offense a little bit. So let me leave it with this way: the pages are now being written of the dynasty, and anything less, I don't believe the team will settle for. Whether we continue to go undefeated or not, we're going to have our ups and downs, and every team is so good now in the NLL, it's going to be difficult to go through. But we're on page 4 of the dynasty. It's not going to be a dynasty until the end of the playoffs.
You need the trifecta. You need the trifecta to solidify a dynasty. I think.
Then you could submit the paperwork and the first draft of the dynasty book. But right now they're in the midst of writing it, and I think the fans are realizing to say this could be a pretty good ride. This could be a real good ride. It's going to be
an amazing ride.
Yeah.
So, I think once that book comes out, I'll be the first one in line to buy it for sure.
I'm making sure every one of you guys sign that sumbitch.
Tony,
I hope for that, especially Gurtler, are going to be the front page on that one. Go ahead, Johnny, sign it right there. Best announcer for the Bandits.
Tony, I hope you're okay with waiting until 2035 when the dynasty officially ends or something like that. Like once maybe Byrne or Dane, they all start they all retire and they have to bring in all these new players.
That hurts.
Hey,
enjoy this moment. You've got to enjoy this year because it's going to be a great ride. I really feel it's going to be a great ride. I mean, I've never seen these guys play so well so early in the season, and the way that they've been able to play with these god awful bye weeks.
Yeah, it's relentless.
They're again to kind of like just pick up the pieces and try it again. And it was good that they played last week. It was great that they played a good, physical, tight game, and to win it the way they won it. With Weiss with the winner, you wouldn't want to have any other way. So you go in with a lot of enthusiasm and just all the great goals that were scored, and Ian McKay playing for his father-in-law.
Yep.
Steve, who
rest in
passed
peace.
away.
Yep.
And there again,
He's
the
playing
emotional
more
side.
than. Yep.
The emotional side of this team is pretty cool. It's really its chemistry is just uncanny this year. Great chemistry.
You know what it reminds me of, and Tony, you're probably thinking the same thing here.
What's that?
When Darius and Rich lost their dad in 2008. Same with Pat McCready.
Yeah.
I think they talked about that on their roundtable during COVID. They played for a lot more than lacrosse, and what did it turn them into? It turned them into champs. I'm seeing a lot of similarities here with Ian McKay as well.
Yeah.
Using that as like motivation, and Tony and I have been talking about this too. And Tony, you could definitely vouch for this. I said the Bandits came out to start the season almost with this angry, pissed off attitude, like they lost the championship and they just want to rip someone's head off. Like I didn't want to say they have no business just whooping teams left and right, but I don't see an end in sight with this team, especially with the start that they had this year. Something has to go catastrophically wrong with these guys for anything bad to happen. They have just been, outside of maybe last week, Ottawa did not expect an 11-goal victory there. No. This team is just built different. They're on a different level. All credit in the world to Steve Dietrich and John Tavares for turning this into what it is.
Absolutely.
Great roster.
Yeah, so it's an incredible ride, like you said, John, that we're going to be watching these guys till whenever it's their time. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy every single game until that time comes.
And what are they going to do, Tony? They're going to scout the next Josh Byrne, the next Dane Smith, and it's going to keep going. It's just going to, I think it's just going to keep going. And John's going to have the front row to every single game, home and away, as he'll be up in the press box covering hopefully a lot more championship banners being dropped from the ceiling of the KeyBank Center. But John, thanks for joining us on this show.
Thanks, Trevor.
This is a lot of fun, and
thank you.
I know
much, John.
I'll be looking at Tony from above, and I know you will too, John. But I will see you in the press box tomorrow.
You can't see that, and who else can you see?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're simulcasting tomorrow night. So Chris Giacobello.
Chris Giacobello, yes. Shout out to him.
Yep. Producer. So we're simulcasting because we're on TV tomorrow night too.
Oh, nice.
And,
yes.
You got a good shout out from the Daily Dive guys, as I understand.
Oh, Mike. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So Trevor, my man.
I didn't see that. He talked all that good stuff about me and didn't even send me the link. What the heck? Well, you know what? We'll have to find that, Tony. That's what we'll
he's
do.
a good guy.
But yeah, John, it's gonna be a good game. I'll see you in the press box, Tony. If you shine your flashlight, turn around and shine your flashlight at us. We'll see you. We'll give you a wave.
Yeah.
But watch the game. CW23 against the Philadelphia Wings. They're also on the Bet 1520 too. If you want to listen to it on the radio. If you're in your car doing something.
ESPN Plus, NLL. Oh, we don't get NLL Plus here, but that's
no.
But it's going to be a good one. Definitely going to be a good one.
See you guys post game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Cobblestone after the game. We will be there. This has been Banditland Boulevard. Trevor Hauer, Tony LaMonica, and of course John Gurtler. Signing off for now. Have a great night, everybody, and let's go Bandits.
Let's go Bandits.